What is up everyone, Barricade here, and I'm bringing you guys episode 14 of Dragon Ball Z Lore. Today I'm going to be talking about something kind of new. It was kind of announced probably like a couple weeks ago. Akira Toriyama added a new add-on to the DBZ Lore and basically added the names of androids 17 and 18. He revealed their names, and what I mean by that is that many people believe that they were robots like from the start, like Dr. Zero made them from scratch as robots, but no, they're not. They were humans that were modified. I will go more into that right now, but what I really want to say first is their names, and basically what their names are. Just give me a sec. I have it right here. I'll put the article in the description. But their names are number 17. His name is Lapis, and her name, Android 18, is Lazuli. And it's basically, Akira Toriyama. He's always doing puns with names. He always does, like, it's always either food or an item or something. His names for his characters are always some type of pun. And basically what the pun is for here is that it's a stone. It's a certain type of stone, like in real life. And it's basically right here, like the article explains it pretty good right here. It says their names come from the deep blue semi-precious stone known as lapis lazuli, meaning their names are essentially stone and blue respectively. So 17's name technically means stone, and 18's name basically means blue. And it's kind of just like a pun on the name of the rock, which is lapis lazuli, and it's just the first part of the name for the rock is given to him, and the second part of the name of the rock is given to her. So it's kind of just like a little weird little pun. Akira Toriyama always does this. He always adds weird little puns for the characters' names, and it's pretty crazy. It's kind of cool that he added something like this to the story, to the lore. Everyone always wanted to know what their names were, and now we got their names. And while we already know the backstory for 18, like after the Cell arc, she got Krillin. He also stated that 17's story after the Cell arc is that he basically became a park ranger, like in a forest, and helped to preserve nature and everything. And he married a zoologist. God, I messed up there. And basically became like a father of two adopted children with her. Kind of weird, I don't know why he made them adopted. Like, you think he would have just made him have kids with her, like the way he had 18 have kids with Krillin. Kind of weird, but it's his story, so obviously he's gonna make it the way he wants to. It doesn't really bother me. I've seen people complaining about it, like, oh, why aren't they his actual children? But I don't really care. It's just like whatever. His story isn't too crazy. It doesn't affect the story overall, really. It doesn't affect DBZ too much. It's just a little piece of lore, that we get to finally get to know more about 17 and 18. The other thing that I wanted to go into, kind of just talk about for a little bit, is like I said already, that Android 17 and 18, the term Android is actually incorrect. Many people always think that they're androids, and many people don't realize that androids mean that they're robots from the beginning. He created them as robots 100%. That's not true. That they're not 100% robots. They were humans that were modified. So technically they're cyborgs, or the term I think they used in the manga was artificial human. So they're not robots. They're humans that were modified. And there's actually a big difference in between that, because it shows that they had lives before that. Before Dr. Zero got a hold of them, they had their own lives. And why he kidnapped them, why he did that, I don't know. Like, I know obviously it was to get back at Goku, but like why he kidnapped them is kind of weird. Like, them specifically, I don't know. Maybe he just randomly found them and took them. But the one thing that actually kind of bothered me when I think about it is, like, why would they still want to be called 17 and 18 after the Cell arc and Dr. Zero? Like, when you really think about it, you think, they hate him. They hated him. That's why 17 killed Dr. Zero. So, they hate him. So why would they want to still be called by their numbers that were given to them by Dr. Zero? You think they would want to have their own names back? And I know, Akira Toriyama barely just made these names up recently, but you think they would still want to have their names back, even back then when he was making the series. You think they would want to have their piece of humanity back. And the only thing that I can think of is that they just didn't remember. Like maybe their memories were like wiped, so they don't remember their original names. And you know, that's the only thing I can think of to why they wouldn't want to be called by their names again instead of their numbers that, you know, Dr. Gero gave them. Either that or maybe they just don't care. You know, that's the only thing I can think of. They just don't care. They're like, okay, just call me 17, call me 18. Doesn't really matter. But that's the only thing that kind of bothered me about it. But the one other thing that I actually want to talk about too is that in a way, if you realize that they're not artificially made, that technically also adds to the whole fact of GT being non-canon, because if you remember in Dragon Ball GT, in the Super 17 arc, you see Dr. Gero and Dr. Mew make another 17, and he comes from Hell, and then they fuse and become Super 17. That doesn't make sense to me because, well, one, they wouldn't even be the way they were in Hell. Watch my episode where I talk about how Hell works and you know, why Vegeta wasn't able to keep his body, because technically, just a little quick thing I'll take from that episode to explain what I mean, is that technically in canon and everything, when a character dies, if they're evil, they turn into that white puff of smoke and that's it. All those scenes you've seen of them in Hell, like the villains in Hell, that's non-canon filler, that doesn't count. So when you see these villains in GT with their bodies in Hell, that adds on to the non-canon filler aspect, because it doesn't make sense for them to have their bodies. It was stated literally in the manga and in the anime. Vegeta asks Piccolo, you know, will I have the same benefits that Goku has after I die? Piccolo tells him, no, you will go to Hell, and he literally says, you will go to Hell and you will lose your body and you will not remember who you were. Your memory will be wiped, your soul will be cleaned. And that's why, you know, you see villains with their bodies in Hell, and yet you see Vegeta, they say Vegeta doesn't get to keep his body. That was one little thing that they messed up on there, and the whole filler aspect of the series. And that's why it makes GT non-canon, because of the simple fact that, first off, the villains wouldn't have their bodies, so it wouldn't make sense for them to be able to make 17. And another aspect that makes it non-canon is that 17 was a human that was modified into an, like, you know, a cyborg, artificial human, whatever. And it doesn't make sense that they would be able to make another 17 from scratch, because the original 17 wasn't made from scratch. He was a human that was modified. It doesn't make sense for them to be able to make another 17, because he's not like a robot they can just make up out of thin air. Doesn't make sense. And you know, and another thing too is you can argue that it's because, oh, maybe they had DNA, you know, 17's DNA or whatever. That doesn't make sense. Why would they randomly have 17's DNA in Hell with them? That doesn't make sense either. So, you know, that whole entire arc, Super 17 and everything, is completely disregarded if you really sit there and realize that 17 is not an android made from scratch. He's a human. So all that type of stuff is just completely thrown out the window because it doesn't make sense. And another thing too is that 16, he was stated to be made from scratch. He was an android, robot, whatever you want to say, that was made from scratch. So they could make like another 16, because he's just, you know, a robot. He's just like another number on, you know, the chart that they can just make up in 2 seconds. But as 17 and 18, no, they were humans that were modified. All the other androids were made from scratch, I'm pretty sure, because 19, you could tell 19 was pretty much you know, an android. You know, he didn't look like a person that was, you know, modified. And not to mention, since he was an energy sucking version, you know, it shows that he's not human, because Dr. Gero had to take his own brain out and put himself in an android body to be able to have the energy sucking, you know, body. So that would mean that his body is completely artificial, making Android 19's body completely artificial as well. So it's kind of weird, you know, it's kind of confusing, you know, it's kind of weird to sit there and realize, you know, like, oh, these weird little things about the androids. But in the end, you know, the very simple gist of it is Android 17 and 18 were humans that were modified, turned into cyborgs, artificial humans. And actually, even the Dragon Ball Z Abridged made fun of that. If you watch Dragon Ball Z Abridged, there's a part where Trunks, you know, is explaining what happens in the future, and Goku goes, androids, and then Trunks goes, well, actually, technically, they're cyborg, and then before he can even finish the sentence, Goku goes, androids. Like, he just cuts him off, like, kind of making fun of the fact that in the English dub, they called them androids, even though that's technically not correct. But anyways, guys, that's finishing my little rant here. If you guys like this video, please definitely hit that like button, subscribe. I'm gonna make more of these, of course. I love Dragon Ball Z, and tell me what you guys think. What do you think about the whole, new names for the Android, Android 17, 18? What do you think about their names? Do you think it's kind of cool how it's always a pun? Kira Toriyama's always doing that. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching and take it easy.